Hey guys, so this is every book series I'm in the middle of. So I got this idea from just scrolling through BookTube and just seeing that so many other people were like finishing the series they started or just talked about all the series that they're in the middle of. I got this idea especially from Just Allie. She was the very first YouTube video that I watched that did this, and I thought it was such a cute idea, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. So this video is talking about all the series I've started, and then I'll probably make another video of trying to tackle all these series and trying to finishing them, but this one's just talking about it. So when I was getting prepared for this video, I was shocked to find that I was in the middle of 40 series. What? Like, I was not expecting that, especially since like a year and a half ago, this would be like so minuscule on how many numbers. I probably, at the very, very most, rarely 10 maybe, if that. And I'm at 40 series. How in the hell have I not read, like finished 40 series? I was not expecting that when I just kept going and going. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm in that many series? I don't know what's going on. Also, I apologize about my voice. I just got back from an event a couple days ago, and so my voice is still coming back. So if I crack or anything, that's the reason why. So because I have so many book series that I've started, I've decided to put them into categories. There's 4 categories, and to kind of easier lay out this video a little bit. So the first category is books I will finish. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Those are books that I have started and either plan to finish and just haven't gotten around to it, or hope to finish because I'm on like the first book. The second book is pause books, and those are books that I've like caught up completely with the series, but they're not completed series. I'm waiting for the rest of the books to come out, and so that's what pause series is. So the third one is On the Fence series, and that is series either that I'm like, oof, I don't know if I like it enough to continue, the series not gripping, I don't really know, like I had a struggle with the first book or the first couple books, I'm not sure. Or it could be things like I'm like, I didn't really care about this book. It's not that I hated it or disliked it in any way, I just don't know if I care enough about the book series. Like, I don't know if I care enough about like the author's writing style or the characters or anything to continue the series. And then the last one is series I'm DNF'ing, and those are series that I'm absolutely 100% not finishing. Like, I do not like those books. I like ranted about those books. Those are like low rating stars. I have no interest to continue those series at all. So those are my 4 categories. So on to the first category, series I will finish. This is the biggest category we will have on the list. It is the most because a lot of the series that are in my 40 are ones that I do want to continue, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. None of these books are really in order. They're kind of just, I think in the way I read them, it's not like, I want to finish these first ones very first because I'm really excited to read them. It's just the order I'm going to go in. So the first series is the Kingmaker Chronicles. This is the 3rd series, if I remember correctly, this is the 3rd series I've ever read. So it starts with The Promise of Fire. So when I started this book, only 3 books were out. It was basically like a trilogy, ran like a trilogy, kind of had an ending point. Didn't fully love the ending of this book, but then years later, like not years, like a year and a half later, I realized that the author had released another book. It's kind of like an ACOTAR situation where it has the 3 main books and then it's about someone else. It's about a sister of a main character and her love story. And so I'm like, the grievances I had with this book, some of them can't be replaced just because that's how the series ended. But some of them I was like disappointed that I didn't get certain things. And so I'm wondering if I can get them in the next book. This one isn't on the top of my list. I did pick it in my 24 books for 2024, so I do need to finish it this year, but I don't have any like real drive to since it's been such a long time since I finished this series. But I do want to dive back in and see if the 4th book helps change my mind. The second series is the Stormlight Archive. I love this series. I devoured this. I love Kaladin. I love Brandon Sanderson. He's really good. I want to read more of his books, but I haven't quite caught up to this series. It could be a pause series, but I have 2 more books. One like really big book and one like tiny book left to read in this series. I have basically this size, but in a different book, and this size left in this series. Well, I remember when I read the 3rd book, I got really burnt out because these are giant books and these are like the biggest books I've ever read in my life. And so I think I just like read it too fast and like consumed it too much, and I got really overwhelmed and burnt out. And so I've just been on a break for like a year, but I want to continue the series. I want to get caught up. I want to get it at least read before the 5th book comes out, and with some distance so that I can kind of get into it when the 5th book comes out. But I do really like this series. I think about the third one too is that it isn't just like mainly Kaladin based, and I'm such a main character fucking slut that I just like, if someone else takes the limelight, I'm like, I'm not interested anymore, my favorite character. But that's not always the case. I think it's just with this one I was like, Kaladin, I love you so much. And so though he's in the book, it's just like, I think that's also what like turned it down for me a little bit. But I want to continue this series. I just haven't gotten around to it because this is daunting. Like this, I did not know this book was this big when I started it. Now I know that they're this big. It's kind of, again, it's a daunting task to get back into it. So the 3rd series in this category is From Blood and Ash. So I love this series. This is probably one of my favorite fantasy series. I just haven't gotten around to finishing it. The 3rd book, the cliffhanger in the end, I really do need to know what happens. Like I need to know immediately now. But with the way you need to read it, you need to read like the prequel series first. So I need to just get back into this so I can see what happens next, because I just desperately need to know. And I'm so far behind now, and I need to keep reading. So the 4th book in this category is the Ascendant series, and the 1st book is The False Prince. This was a book recommended to me by my friend. It was one of his favorite books in middle school, and he thought it was really good, and he thought I would like it. And so I started it, and it's cute, and I like it, and I like the premise, and it's very good. But I think the biggest thing for me is that it's just kind of young, and so sometimes like I have to really be in the mood to read younger books, and at the time I was enjoying it a lot, but I have like no motivation to pick it back up. And so I just need to pick it back up, continue the series. They're not that long books. I could probably finish it in a week or two. I just need to get on it. So the next series in this category is the Ravenspire series with the Shadow Queen as the 1st book. This is kind of like a standalone fantasy YA series, and I absolutely love this series so much. It's probably one of my favorite YA series that I've read, and they're just really good. And I have one more book left, and I pulled it in also my 24 for 2024, so I literally have no excuse not to read it, and I'm really excited for it because it's a Cinderella retelling. And I always believe that Cinderella is my favorite princess, though now I'm second guessing myself, but like I know I'm gonna love it, so I just need to like pick it up. So the 5th book on this list is the Longhorn Canyon series. I've read this all on audiobook, so it's so funny to see how tiny this book is. But basically they're all standalone cowboy novels. I've read 4 of them at this point, and I think there's like 10 or something. So like technically I haven't finished this series, technically I have more to read, but they're kind of just like in the mood reads, and when I'm like, oh, I want some cowboy, let me go read this one. So that's kind of basically why I haven't finished it yet, because they're kind of a slow reading process, but I do plan to finish it eventually. So my next book series is the Ivy Year series. I talked about this in my wrap-up video for 2023 about all the books I read. Love this series. I think I have one more book in this series. I have a lot of series that I just have one more left, and I just need to finish them. And so that's what this one is. Love it. Can't wait to read it. I don't think the last book is like super drawing me, because it's like all the other books were like friends, and it like makes sense how it goes into the next one. And I do make it, the last book does make sense how that's now the main character, but like I wasn't super drawn to her, and so I think that was just holding me back, and I just haven't had the drive to start it yet. So the 8th book in this category is the Shatter Me series. So this series, I have one book as well. I have so many book series that I just have one book. I have no idea even why I haven't finished this. I think I just like read it enough, and I just like got burnt out, and I didn't want to read anymore for a second. But it literally ends like the novella between the last book and oh, I have 2 books. I have a book and a novella. But the novella before the last book ends in like this major cliffhanger, and I have no idea why I haven't started it yet. I just, there's no absolute no reason for me not to finish the series. So I need to finish this as well this year. This is one of my goals. I just want to kind of have it done so it's not in my way. I have such a weird relationship with this series, like I was talking about in all the books I read in 2023. I feel like I don't like this series, but then when I'm reading the series, I like it. So I don't understand. But I just need to finish it because I honestly want to have more Kenji. I'm not gonna lie. So the next book series I don't have with me. It's the Salinger Brothers series, and I read the first one in it specifically just because I was drawn in by like the trope and the genre and just like the vibe of the book. I think it was a pregnancy book, and so that's why I found it. I had no intention of continuing the series, but you meet the brothers that are going to be in the other books, and so I was like, you know what, I want to know how their love stories go, but it's like so down on my read list. Like I would rather read new romance books than continue that series, but it is a series I do want to finish. I just have to find the motivation for it. Maybe I should just read the description for the next book and see if it's something I want to read. But I want to read it enough that it is in this category, so it's like probably one of the lower ones in this category, like almost got put into on the fence, but it's not quite on the fence. So we're basically halfway through. We're on the 10th book series, and it is Hot and Hammered. So this was the very first Tessa Bailey book I've ever read, and so it was interesting. It was not my favorite, and so I'm hoping to continue reading some of her books and seeing if I like some of them better. The smut was tasteful. It wasn't too much, but then it also wasn't my favorite at the same time. I can't really explain anything else more than that. But the two next books, I know who they're about, and I do really want to hear their stories and how they fall in love with their significant other one. The second book in this series I know is about a second chance while while they're married. So they're kind of reviving their marriage. And I do want to hear about that a lot because it's talked about in this book. But yeah, so I just need to continue these. A lot of these are romance books, and so I just need to, they're not like continuation stories, so they're not, like they're hard to not continue the series, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to forget that there are more books in that standalone series. So with the next book series, I completely just counteract what I just said in my last book series, and it is the Daughter of Sparta series, and it's a continuation fantasy series. So like this one ends, like we're like the story's not done yet. It can continue going, while these like romance standalones, like they're like, oh, I gotta continue middle, like beginning, middle, end. If I just want to know more about the other characters, I just got to continue it. But this one was really good. I did really like it. I think I just like needed a break from it, but I do want to try and continue it again this year. Okay, so we got 8 books left. I have 3 books that I have with me, and then I have the rest of them are just like, I don't have them with me because I couldn't get them from the library. The library didn't have them. Some of these books I actually do own. Like I was showing some of them that I owned, but a lot of these are library books. That's kind of not the point. Anyways, so the next book series is Legend. This was one of the book series too that I was like, ooh, I like this kind of dystopian sci-fi fantasy kind of situation, like Shatter Me, but it wasn't like entirely super duper gripping, and so I think it wasn't like oh, I desperately need to continue the series, but I liked it enough that I want to continue it. I just have to find that drive to start the next one. And being a mood reader, it's really hard. But this one I thought was fun and it was cool and I liked the action. There's just a couple of things that didn't make me desperately need to pick up the next book, which a lot of these have that same vibe where I'm just like not desperate to see what happens. And so I want to continue, I want to know what happens, but I'm not like I need it right now. You know, like you are sometimes with book series, how you just like, you need to know what happens like now, you know, I can't wait, like, but I don't know why so many of these I'm just, I'm gonna read something else and I'll come back to it, you know. So number 13 on our list is the Chestnut Spring series. I had no idea how popular this series was, I don't think, until like having started the series and seeing it. I'm like, oh, I started that series. This one's a standalone romance novels. They're cowboys, and I did really like the first one. I thought it was a cool twist that he was like a bull rider. But I do want to continue. I want to see what happens with his brothers and stuff. But there's just no like immediate drive to read cowboys right now. So when I want to read cowboys, I will start the next one. I think I'm hoping, because like the first book wasn't my absolute favorite, so I'm hoping when I read the next book, one of the next books, they'll be my favorite, because I've heard that Cade's story is everyone's favorite, and so I'm excited to read that one because I did really like Cade, if I'm remembering that right. I think his name's Cade. So the next series is the Bonds That Tie series, and I'm like reluctantly going to finish the series. Lord help me with this series. I loved it at the beginning. Absolutely loved it. Thought it was really cool. The more I read, and with each book I read, I'm so tired. I'm getting tired and tired to the point where like a really, really serious like thing happened at the very last book. I think I have 2 more books left. And in the 4th book, some serious shit went down. And I'm just tired. So this one isn't on the fence because I am so just needing to know how this ends and how this like either turns into a worse dumpster fire than I already feel it is, or if it gets better and kind of redeems itself. This is just, it feels very fan fiction-y, I feel. It feels very tropey, and so I think that's why I don't fully like it. Not saying that if you do like this book, you're wrong in any means. I can see why people love this book. The more I read, the more I'm like, oof, this is getting bad. But I'm just so drawn in though, and I can't put down the books. I just need to know what happens. So the next series, number 15, is the Queen's Thief series. I was like almost gonna DNF this book, like I was talking about my every book I read in 2023, but I liked it enough how it ended that I'm like, okay, I'm interested in continuing the series, but I'm not gripping to like need to know what happens next. But I hope to start it soon, and I hope to continue on to the series and see if it just gets better, because that's what I heard. It just gets better the more you read it. So I need to just get into the series. I think there's 4 or 5 books in this series, so I just need to, I should just have a tally for how many times I'm going to say series, because you can't really, they're series, there's no other word that I can like interchange with it. But yeah, so Wait With Me is the 16th series in our series I will finish category. And so we got 3 more after this. Thank you for sticking with me, I appreciate it. But Wait With Me, I've read book 1 and I've read book 3. They're standalone romance novels. I was really drawn into the 3rd book. And then I was like, ooh, I like this, I want to read about our best friend. So I read the 1st book, and now I just need to read, there's like, I think 5 or 6 books in the series. I could be wrong. I think there's definitely 5 at least. But yeah, so I need to continue. I like binged the first 2 in a really short amount of time, so now I just need to take a little bit of step back so that I can not get overwhelmed, and so I can continue the series. So the next book series is our 17th book series, and it's Realmbreaker. This took me like 3 months to read. It takes me usually like a week to read a book, but this took me like 3 months to read, and I think it's very, very fantasy, and so it just, my little brain, it's not like romantasy very much, it's fantasy. And so I haven't read very many fantasy, like Brandon Sanderson's like basically the only other like not romantasy series I've read. And so these took me a long time. This one's ginormous too, and so they just take me a while to consume so much because there's so much going on. This one felt like a prequel, kind of just a setup book too. So there was like stuff going on, but like it wasn't as like, you know, I need to know what happens next immediately, because it was kind of slower paced. So I'm hoping that the next 2 books are a little bit more fast paced. They get a little bit more into the action, because it's not having to set up the world as much. But yeah, this one took me so long. I literally just finished it last month after reading it for like 3 months. So I'm taking a fat break from this series for a second so that I can have the energy and the not burnout to continue the series, so I can actually keep reading it. I'm just like stacking the books right next to me. I'm on a chair, and they're not in a line. They're like in a freaking tower situation. And I'm afraid that if I had one more book on this, it's just gonna topple over. Okay, the 18th, second to last book series in this category is the Off-Campus series. This has been consuming my life for like the last like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. This is the current series I'm reading now. I am currently on the 4th book. I have like 30 minutes left of the audiobook. I added this onto the list because there is like a novella kind of collaboration book at the very end that is part of this series, so I'm not like done with it yet, and I'm not technically done at the filming of this video, but probably by the uploading of this video, the whole series will be done. But I am definitely like consuming a lot of romance right now, so after this I'm going to dive into a fantasy. But they're so cute. I love the college setting, I love the characters, but yeah, I love it, and I'm almost done with it, and I'm excited to be almost done with it, but I'm also dreading to be almost done with it, because I'm like, wait, no, mean, no, I don't want it to be over, you know? So yeah, this is my current read. I'm probably gonna go finish the 4th book after filming this video. Okay, so the last book, the 19th book in this series, I will finish category, is The Serpent and Dove. I did include this into the series because I have started this book. Haven't finished this book though. This sure is a current read. I think I'm like this much into it, maybe this much. I'm listening to it on the audiobook because I've listened to it at like the gym. And so I have no idea if I will want to continue this series. I put it in this category because I'm enjoying it so far and I want to continue this book, but I don't know what category it will be put into afterwards. But I'm like, at the point of filming, it is in the series I will continue category. So have nothing really to say about this one. It's just the very beginning dregs of the series and this book. So I have a lot to get into. This book is kind of big, so I have a lot to continue reading. So but yeah, that was all of the books in the series I will finish category. So let's get on to the next one. So the next category is our pause series. So this one's really short. It only has 3 books in it. I don't have a lot of series that I've started that I'm waiting for the book to come out. So that's rare that I have to do that. And I had like the real experience with one of these series. So, but yeah, basically let's get into it. Actually, all of these books I have to get the real experience of waiting for the next book to come out. So our first one is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Absolutely love this series, but it's not done yet. So we're waiting for Actor 5. Please, I mean, she's cooking. Sarah J. Maas is cooking. So, but yeah, so this was my first one. Love this series. I want to make a whole video about Sarah J. Maas, but I'm excited for the 5th book. I don't know who I think it's Elaine, but I think it's Azriel, and I don't know if it's Elaine and Azriel. Like, I have no idea whose book it is, and I want her to tell us already. I'm impatient. Please just tell us whose book it is. The next one, the second one, is the Dark Shore series. I love this series so much. It was one of my first fantasy series. I'm like desperately waiting for the 4th book. It like almost didn't come out, but the author's finally being like, yeah, no, I'm working on it now. Officially is like gonna be made now, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I need the finishing of this story. I need to know what happens. I'm scared for my children, but I'm just excited. I want it to come out already. I need it right now. So like the not knowing if it was ever gonna come out was killing me, but now it's officially coming out. We don't have a date yet, but I need more. I need more. I highly recommend the series. She's also wrote in The Bridge Kingdom, which is going to be talked about later in this video, and I love this one more. So this one's amazing. Please go read it. The last but not final in this category is the Crescent City series. So I don't have the first 2 books. I have the 3rd book. Look how giant this book is. I have the 3rd book because I like got it out as immediately as it came out. Like, I went to a midnight release party to get this book. I already was getting the audiobook, but then I had to get this one, and I had to, because I had to know what happens immediately. So I need to buy now the rest of this series in the hardback cover so it all matches, so I can put it on my shelf. But now I just have this lonely 3rd book. So I put this on the list as a series that is not finished yet, because I don't know what Sarah is gonna do with this series. The way this ended, it could be just a trilogy, but I also could see her kind of doing an ACOTAR situation. I don't think anyone knows if this is a continued series or not. I could see her doing a House of Many Waters and make it where it's all the 4 house, but then I heard that like she's only contracted for 3, so I really don't know, and I can't tell you. But yeah, so I put it on the list because I wanted to talk about it a little bit. This book is heavy. This book is huge compared to these other books. Holy crap. I read this in 5 days. My life was consumed by this book. So that was it with the pause series category. So let's move on to the next one, my On the Fence series. So this is the 2nd longest category that we have in this video, and it's 12 books long. So not as quite as the 19, but 12 book series that I just have no idea if I want to finish. Some of them are more like leaning towards like DNF'ing, and some of them are like, I have no idea. So if you've read any of these series, put in the comments below and let me know if I should continue them and if they're worth continuing. Same thing for the first category as well. If you're like, bro, why are you sleeping on this? You've read part of the series, go and read the rest of it. Yell at me in the comments. But it's also, if you have read my on the Fence series and you know that like they're good series and you're like, bro, just keep reading it because like the first book or the first 2 books or whatever are kind of slow, let me know as well. I kind of need help with these book series and if they're worth continuing. So the first one is The Ex-Hex. I had no idea this was going to become a series. I thought it was just a standalone romance novel, so I like picked it up, thought it was cute. And then I heard that a second book came out and I was like, I like rated this, I think like a 3.5 star. So it wasn't like it was my favorite. So I wasn't like, oh my God, I need to read the next one. So now I'm just sitting here and being like, do I want to continue it? Do I not care enough? Like I didn't love this book entirely. And so do I need to know what happens to her cousin? Like I don't know. I'm like, is it worth it? Is it worth my time? Maybe I'll save it for Halloween time. I don't know. That's just, I'm on a dilemma with this one. I don't know if I want to continue Kingdom of the Wicked. I don't even remember what it's called for a second. I had really high hopes for this series. It sounded really cool, but the more I went into it, the more I like bored I became, I think, basically. I like Raph. I like the main character. Don't really like, I don't have like a ton of interest in the romance. The world's really cool, I will say that. But when I started this series, the 3rd book wasn't out yet, and by the 2nd book, I was like, I don't really care. And so now the 3rd book's out, and I could read it, and I'm like kind of tempted to read it, but I'm not like dying to read it. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But if you've read the 3rd book and you think it's better, let me know. I think I've heard mixed reviews about the 3rd book, so I don't really know. But this book really didn't fully do it for me. So our 3rd book on this list, I'm gonna have 2 books. I'm gonna put them together because you can't not with the fucking covers of these books. The covers are what made me read this book series. And it's the World of the Narrow series. And like, look at these covers, they're gorgeous. That's what drew me into the series. I was like, this is so pretty, look at them. Oh, look at her, she's so pretty. Like I might just buy these books because they're just gorgeous, but like, the books itself, not my favorite. I was going into this like loving it and like I thought I was gonna love this book series. It's like pirates kind of vibe, but no, not what I thought it was gonna be, and it just kind of was a disappointment. The 3rd book is from a new person's perspective, and I remember I really liked that character as much as I could like a character in a series I don't like. And then there's like a prequel book with her dad, and so there's like only 2 books left in the series. I think there's not a 4th one. And so I'm like, do I just get it out of the way so it's not on my conscience forever? But I'm like, I'm not gonna force myself to read a book I don't want to read either. So I'm like, maybe one day I'll just get the random urge to know how the story continues. But it wasn't my favorite. This next series, it is the Bridge Kingdom series. So I didn't get the 1st book, so we get the 2nd and the 3rd book right now in this video. I've read this one, haven't read this one. This one's so big. I didn't even realize like the difference in their sizing. Like this is giant compared to this one. The Bridge Kingdom, it like was good, but I didn't like it as much as the Dark Shore series, the one that I was talking about in my last, but it was like good. It wasn't like I was dreading it, but I'm like, did I like it enough that I want to continue it? And I already own the book on Audible. It was like a free, just kind of with my Audible premium subscription. And so I was like, I might as well just finish it. But I'm like, do I even care enough? This is about 2 separate characters, so it's like kind of 2 duologies, but in the same world. So it's the same series. And I like was not really drawn to these characters either, but I heard that this couple is better. I don't know. And so I just need to decide. Should I read this? Should I not? So the next series, which was actually my 3rd series in this list, but then I kind of forgot because I don't have the physical book and my brain just went into autopilot mode. And it is the Shadow and Crown series. And ooh, this one's so torn. This one, I am so torn about it because I was ranting. I was like ranting and raving, but not in a good way, about this book ending, and I just like talked about it with my coworker and been like, this was so bad. But I'm like, I like kind of want to know what happens, like after the reveal, like if to see if it gets better. Oof, this one's hard. This one's really hard. I'm like, the rage, like the annoyance that like comes up in me when I think about this. Not saying that people can't like love this book, like I can understand why people like it. I don't know, I just didn't like it. But yeah, it's just, I'm really debating. It's a debate. It's a back and forth. Do I want to read it? Do I not? Do I want to read it? Do I not? My 11th book that I have and it's the Flesh and Bone series, because I have the exact same reaction to how if I want to continue the series as I do as the last series. So I'm just going to bring it up right now. This one's also a, do I want to read it, do I not? I didn't like the surprise ending of the first book. I was like, do I care enough to keep reading it? But I'm like, ooh, I kind of want, like, now that the reveal's been revealed, is it going to be better? Is it going to be different? Is that kind of just like, these two series are just like the nibbling, like, do I want to? Because I have just enough interest. But what I've learned in the past, that if I have just enough interest, it kind of puts me in a book slump, because I didn't actually super care enough. I should have just DNF'd the book. So I'm like, do I just DNF these series? I don't know. And I literally can't decide. I'm like more close to DNFing them than I am to reading them, but there's just that little bit of nugget in me that's like, I need to keep reading it. So that's those two series. Wild Card series is the next one. This was just, this is another standalone romance series, but it's not like one of the, like the romance books that was just like, ooh, this is really cute, I love this, like the ones I'm going to continue, where I'm like, oh, I like this enough that I want to continue what happens and see what happens with the characters. This one I'm like, I don't know if I care, you know? I think this one, if I remember correctly, I would be more likely to read this one than another book in the series at the same situation, in this list, I mean, in this category. This one I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe. I wanted to, I think, when I read this one, but now I'm just like, it's been so long, I don't even remember the storyline. Do I care? You know? And then the Players series, it's the same situation, standalone romance. Both, I think, football romances. And this one I think I liked less than I liked the Wild Card series. And so I don't know. If their romance books are good, let me know. And if I'm just in a romance, just wanting to read, just wanting like a kind of an ebook situation, because I think I read these both on ebooks, that I'll maybe pick it up, but I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Like, it's like there's the opportunity that I could continue it, but I'm not like rushing to continue it, you know? Okay, we have my 9th book in this category, and it is the Twin Crown series. So when I had read this, I enjoyed it. It wasn't like awe-inspiring, gripping, like edge of my seat, but I enjoyed it enough that I continued reading it. But the second book wasn't out yet, and so I like couldn't read it. So even if I wanted to, but now like sitting on it, and like the second book's out now, I can read it at any time. I don't know. I don't know if I like this series enough that I'm like, I need to know what happens. Like, I don't even remember half the shit that happened in this book. I don't think there is a pull to read it, but I'm like not hating it as much as some of the other books in this category. So I'm like, maybe. I really don't know. I have like zero feelings one way or the other. Like the other ones I'm like leaning more towards which way, but this one I'm like so far in the middle that I don't know. So yeah, that's this series I'm in the middle of. So we have 3 more series in this category, and the next one is, spoiler alert, I liked this book. It's another situation where it's a standalone romance series. It's about her friends, I think now. Why I'm so torn about this is because I didn't fully love this book in the way the plus size was written, but like the next book, I think if I remember correctly, the next book that this series is about 2 characters that I was really interested in seeing their romance. So I'm like, I wasn't going to continue the series, but then I think about it and I'm like, but the guy and like the girl, and they like, I was interested in like hearing how they got together, and like it was kind of cute, and I think the next book's about them. So now I'm like, do I continue it? Do I give this author another shot and see if I like in a different setting? I have to decide if I'm wanting to give the author another shot, and if I'm liking those characters enough that the next book is about, that I need to continue reading it. If both of those are no, then I won't continue the series. I think those are the 2 defining factors. So my second to last book of these 12 series in this category is the Mortal Instruments series. And I started this because I wanted to like watch the TV show and movie, and like it's such a huge universe that this is where you start. This is the one series in this list, in this category, that I'm like, I genuinely want to know what happens next. Like I genuinely want to know, but I just have an ick whenever I think about this book now. I just have this, what the fuck did I read when I think about this book? Like, if these 2 fuckers get together, I don't know. So I don't know if I can push past the ick to continue it, or if the ick is going to drown it and I'm not going to be able to continue it. So if I don't continue it, I found this lady who kind of just like tells you the whole series and what happens on YouTube, and I might just watch that so I can be prepared and I can just watch the TV show, because I do like the TV show looks really cool. And so I'm like, ugh, and like I wanted to prepare myself and like read this one first and like see the differences and stuff and have like kind of a context of going into it. But I don't even know if I want to watch the TV series if it has the same kind of vibes. So help. Do I continue the series or not? Okay, the last book in this category, our 12th book that I do not have with me, is The Curvy Girls Club. I like this book. This was cute. I like this better than, spoiler alert, I like this one a lot, but I think what just is holding me back from continuing it is just that it's in high school. This is the last book, like the most recent high school book I've read, and like reading it, I was like, I don't fully love this. Like I like YA, but as like a now almost 26-year-old, I just feel like I think it's too distant. I like college because like technically I could even be in college if I wanted to, and I'm kind of still in that age group even though I'm not like peak college age. But with high school, I'm just like, I could like not care about high school like anymore in my life. More I want to put myself in a college setting because I didn't really get to experience that. Well, I did experience high school and I really don't care what happens with high school student romances, I guess. Like these would be perfect if I was in high school. Like they would have been perfect books if I had started them then. But now I'm just like an adult, which there's nothing wrong with reading YA and like high school books as an adult. Like I literally did it and like there's nothing fine with it, but I don't think I have the drive to read it. Like I don't think it hits as hard because I'm just not in high school anymore. So that I need to decide. I'm like, do I like this story enough that I could not care that it's in high school? Does that make sense? Like, do I just want to know what happens with the other friends enough that I want to read it? I think with one of the couples I do, but the other ones I'm like, I don't really know. So that one's like a more higher I might read, but it's still just torn. I'm really torn. So the last section of this video, the last category, the series I am DNF'ing category, the last one. So this has 6 books in it. These are 100%, no questions asked. I will never be reading these series again. I will never picking them up. Like after this video, they're going to be banished from my mind. Like I'm not even going to think about them. I don't want to read them that badly. Most of them I don't have with me. I could like, I didn't care enough, or like they weren't like freely available at the library that I was like, I don't really care. I'll just talk about them and put a picture. Yeah, I really like, this is the one category that I'm just like, I don't like these books. There's no question about it. If you like these books, I'm so glad that they were able to resonate with you in a way they couldn't resonate with me. I'm so happy that you got a better experience reading them than I did. But I personally they just weren't my book, and that's okay. Books are just not meant for everyone sometimes, and that's completely okay. So the first one is my first and only ever 1-star that I've ever rated in my life, and is The Return of the Elves. This book had a lot of potential. I don't think this book would have been as bad as if it went through like 5 more stages of editing. It didn't get enough of that. It was choppy, there was plot holes, it was just the way it was written. I was like, what is going on? So I like don't like to think about this book because I think about it and I'm like, what did I read? Like, it was not great. So that's my first book in this category. So my second book in this category, the Dragonheart Legacy series. And this one, the first book's called The Awakening. I have a lot of feelings about this author, and I've only read 2 of her books. I've read 2 in this series, and then I've read another standalone book, so I've read 3 of her books. This made me so hyped when I read the description. I was like, this is gonna be such a cool book. This is gonna be great. This half of the book, she was still in like not fairy world, and then finally, like maybe, maybe it's more like this. It finally got in the fantasy realm. Well, it just was slow. It was not a good bait, and like the second book doesn't make it any better. I think what makes me so upset about this author, it might just be the wrong books I'm reading, and maybe I need some recommendations of Nora Roberts that I like could actually enjoy. But the 2 series that I have read from her, I went into these series wanting romance. I got like a little bit of like speckles of romance. That's all it was. She's like always on the romance sections. She's always like making herself out to be a romance author. And maybe I just don't have enough experience because I've only read, sorry, my camera cut off me because it stopped recording. But I don't know if it's just because I've read 3 of her books and like 2 were in the same series, and these are just like newer books. Like the book's idea itself was so cool. This is just like a fantasy novel that wasn't done the best. Like there was that part of me that wanted to continue reading it. It was on my TBR. Like I wanted to see what happens next. Like I was interested in the storyline enough that I wasn't like wanting to read it, but the romance was not doing it for me at all. But I finally just decided, no, I don't want to read this book. Like I do not want to continue this. So if you have any Nora Roberts that you like that are better romance novels that I want to give another romance like from her a chance, let me know, because from my experiences, every single time I see Nora Roberts, I'm like, you're not a romance author. You're not a romance author. There is no romance in these books. I don't know how to say the series for the next one. I'm gonna go try and look it up. Hold on. I think it's the Imperium series. Let me go find the first book is Furyborn. This series made me so upset. I like was needing just some more fantasy recommendations. I was like going to TikTok because I was just like, I'm dying after finishing Throne of Glass. I miss you, Throne of Glass. And I just got some recommendations off of TikTok because I was like, hey, like help me please get over this book slump for missing it. And it just made it worse. It just made it worse. I know that this is popular and I can see why it's popular, but I just think the execution of the book was done incorrectly in a way that I could just not follow along, and it just wasn't a book for me. I like was so enraged by this book by the end that I just had a rant to my friend for an hour. It was just not my cup of tea. And I just forced myself to keep reading it, and I think that was the major big issue. I should have stopped reading it, but I had just this tiny bit of kernel of just like maybe I want to read it, and so like I said in the last category, I don't know if that's enough because it ruined this entire experience for me, and it made my book club even worse because I just didn't understand in my soul that I could not, like this was not a book for me, and I just forced myself to read a book that wasn't for me in a time crunch as well. And so it just, all in all, wasn't a good book for me, and I will not be continuing the series. I hear it gets better when there's more POVs introduced, but I like could not care enough to continue this series. So the next book is our fourth book in our 6 series category. Just like in the every book I read in 2023 video, I am feeling just as embarrassed about this one, but it's the Ooker Mate series. No, I'm good. I don't want any more, thank you. So I won't be finishing this. I like to forget that I read this. I was just exploring and discovering and trying, and I was like, I read the book, so I'm going to put it as one of my books. But I'm not interested in continuing the series. So the next one is the Blairwood University series. I was going in for the pregnancy trope. That was the only reason I read the series. This was like the 5th book in the series. It's a standalone romance thing, like I was saying before. I'm guessing I might have liked the first books better because those are kind of like the more like hockey, I don't even know if they're hockey, the more sports like main characters that you usually get in college romances, and maybe I would have liked it better if I had started from the beginning, but like none of them were interesting, like inviting to me, and I was just like, I just want to read the one with the trope. It just, the way it was written was not my favorite. I think the way the writing style is what ruined it for me. The story was cute, the characters were cute. I just don't like the words it was used. Like example, if I remember this correctly, one of the things was we're just a family that is 50 shades of fucked up, and I'm like, that is just straight from the 50 Shades of Grey series, and in the 50 Shades of Grey series you're expecting shit like that, but like in this random college romance with a pregnancy trope, was not expecting that. That was weird. I didn't like that. So that was my thoughts on that. And the last but not least series of this video is Molly the Maid. So I didn't like hate this book. I didn't like love it either. It was just kind of right in the middle. It was like a kind of cute, nice cleanser kind of book, which I liked, but I had no idea it was a series. The only reason I figured out it was a series was because making this video. And I have no interest in continuing this and seeing what else Molly's up to. And so I just have no interest in seeing what's happening. I liked this book that I read. I thought it ended perfectly. I thought it was a complete story, and I don't think anything else needs to be added to the series. I mean, into the story, so I don't think it needs to be a series, so I'm just not going to read it. But yeah, that was the last book, guys. Is there any series in particular that you're wanting me to get like started right away and get me reading? Is there any ones that you're like, good choice, like, yeah, I didn't like that book either? Or is there like you have opposite feelings for me? I would love to hear all your thoughts and feelings down below about the series that I'm in the middle of. They're kind of a wide variety, but like also not at the same time very much romance standalone series and fantasy series, because For a while, that's all I read, but I'm trying to dabble into other genres. I think that's all I have. With that being said, I'm so excited to see you guys in the next video, and you guys have a wonderful day.